Hey everybody, coming at you with another video, testing out less lethal launchers again. For about 8 months or so, I have been into less lethal launchers, starting with my First Strike T8.1 Tiberius design. Got a pressure mounted tack light and a green dot laser. As you can see, I modified it with a compensator. All of my markers, I put the mil-sig heat core O-ring. Allows you to jack it up to higher FPS, go high velocity with these things. And I've been firing 2 different types of ammunition from this great company that I love, Grimberg Less Lethal. They make this nylon composite 7.9 gram round. They have 2 different designs. They've got the round ball jewel round and the HP68. Also a few other companies like Canada Riball. I've seen some of their videos. They got some really nice videos out there. And they have some steel balls with some nylon coatings. And I'd like to get a chance to test some of those. But I've been Team Grimberg for a while, so I've accumulated quite a bit of their ammo. Problem is, when you turn up the velocity on these mechanical bolt paintball markers, the shape projectile, the HP68s, tend to jam. When they slide up into the breech, the piston at high pressure tends to get up against the breech wall and the firing bolt, and you'll get these jams. You experience that far less with the jewels. The FSC, I've been having quite a bit of problems with them and jamming at higher FPS and multiple shots out the barrel per trigger pull, and just they're a little bit more finicky. And the T8.1 is just rock solid all the time, except for at extremely high velocities with the HP68. So I heard today, my buddy Dan Sterling of Sterling Engineering told me that a friend of his said that if he converted to the stock First Strike springs in the magazine, which I'll tell you about in here in just a second, that his HPs don't jam at high FPS. So when you get these markers, new or with the marker or used, come like this. There's a Sterling Engineering mag slip cover. It's one of the only ones that has the cutouts where you can manually release the follower. Let me just dump these out. Okay, you can see that there's a red spring in there. And it comes with 2 sets of, these come with 2 sets of springs. One is red. So if you use plastic shaped projectiles, which are the First Strike rounds for paintball, they suggest you use these, give you a little bit more pressure. Or the stock springs that come in there are for round paintball. And they are just silver. They have less tension. They push up into the breech a little less. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to switch out the First Strike springs, because since we're shooting these hard less lethal projectiles, they're more closely attributed to the First Strike rounds. So common sense would tell you that, hey, use the First Strike spring, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some testing. I'm going to leave one of the red springs in the mag, and then the other one I'm going to use the original stock spring. And the way you change them is very simple. Give you guys a better angle. See, there's a hole at the bottom of your mag, and I find it's best if you I just take 2 Allen keys. I stick one towards the bottom through the spring channel and compress the spring and hold it down. And I'll take my other Allen key in this hole, and you can see it only will slide one way towards the opening. Take that guy out. Out comes the red spring. In goes the silver stock spring. Push that down. My Allen key, hold down that spring and put it in the same way. You see there's an opening there. Slide it in that way. And it just clicks into place. Pull that out and it's done. It's literally the easiest modification you can do in this whole less lethal world. So I'm going to load 2 mags up for my T8.1, both with HP 68s, one with stock spring, one with first strike spring, and I'm going to do some test shooting. All right, let me button this up and then we'll go out to my range. All right, I'm out here at the range, aka my dirty garage. So I've got loaded my HP 68s, red spring, first strike spring, and a mag of HP 68s loaded with the stock spring, round ball spring. All right, and I turned the velocity up to 2 turns back from full velocity, which is up a little bit from where I normally keep it. I normally like to keep it to where I have good power across all 8 shots of my my T8.1, but I turned it up to try to coax a jam out of it if it would. So which one do I have in here first? Okay, actually, I'm going to go first strike spring first. Pretty confident there'll be a jam there. Bear with me. All right, first strike spring going in, gassing it up. Nice satisfying click. Safety. Disengaged. Surprisingly enough, I didn't get any jams with the first strike spring. But I don't know if you could tell by the sound, I kind of lost velocity at the last 3 shots. So give me just a second. All right, like I said before, I'm 2 turns on the velocity screw from max. What that means is stick your Allen key in and turn it clockwise till you can't turn it anymore, and that's max velocity. And then however many turns you back it up, that's kind of where you set your bar at. So I'm at 2 turns from max. So I'm gonna turn it clockwise, turn up the velocity 1 more full turn. So now I'm 1 turn away from max. And always after you set your velocity, you take your smaller Allen key into the center. There's a relief valve. You never want to over tighten that, because I did that once and I had to tear apart my regulator. There's a spring pad in there, very tiny O-ring, very tiny spring that I ruined, and I had to rebuild that. I had to buy a new spring pad and rebuild all that, and it was not a fun process. So just snug that little relief valve screw every time you adjust your velocity. If not, you'll hear this hissing out of here because it'll build up too much pressure, and that relief valve is designed to relieve that pressure. So, still have the red spring, first strike spring, loaded it back up. I'm going to always have your safety engaged before you gas up your marker. Very satisfying click. All right, still no malfunctions. It looks like my FSCs took all the malfunctions in my house away from the T8.1, Well, usually you don't get malfunctions. You only get jam up sometimes. But as you can see now, it's working flawlessly. I'm loving it. So hold on a second. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not getting any jams. One thing I did notice that I do have different in my setup. I got some of these 3D printed detents from Sterling Industry or Sterling Engineering from Dan Sterling. He's on a lot of these groups. And he sells them very inexpensively. Mailed them to my house. He's got some other great 3D printed products. So that could, I don't know, it could potentially be helping with my jams because I'm not getting any jams at all. And I'm one turn away from max velocity. My last 3 shots dropped off in power substantially. The first couple shots kicked like a mule. So not sure if it's the detents or not. These detents are great. They're a lot stiffer. They seem to last through a lot more punishment. So I guess for the sake of the test, I guess I'll run this mag of HP 68s with the stock round ball spring at 1 turn from max velocity, and we'll see what we get. All right. I got a jam. Now this is the factory round ball spring, the silver spring. So I got a jam. So that means I still have rounds. I think I only shot about 6 rounds. I'm pulling the trigger and nothing's happening. Now you want to be very cautious when you do this because the potential for you shooting somewhere where you're not intending to when you're clearing a jam is very high. So what I'm going to do, luckily I have this green laser. I'm going to point it towards my trap, then release the mag, and 9 times out of 10 it will fire the bolt. Sometimes a round will come out and sometimes it won't. But let's see what happens. Okay, it's not going to drop the mag. Okay. Getting the mag release, it's not dropping the mag, so I'm going to do what I did last night. Just degas your magazine. And I felt it let go. Okay. Dude, that was good, jam. That was good, jam. Okay, so according to my test, it jammed with the original silver spring and it didn't jam with the red first strike string, which I've only ever ran the red first strike spring and have gotten semi-consistent jams. So go figure. I don't know what's going on. These things there's no absolute science to this stuff. All I can say is be careful. Try to keep your markers well maintained because in an emergency, when you actually need to use these things, you want it to perform the way they're intended to perform. So if you have questions, keep trying to work at them. Keep maintaining your markers. Keep them oiled. Keep all the screws tightened up inside. I'm going to try lubricating these HP 68s. I mean, I love them, but it just seems like the HPs tend to jam more than the Joules. So a lot of us in this community have been leaning towards the Joule rounds, but I'm going to try to, lube them. I've seen people put turtle wax on them to see if that, helps the jamming situation. Most of the jams are honestly occurring in the FSCs, and I've got some issues with my 2 FSCs at the moment that I've got to sort out. So I guess I'll make some more videos. Hopefully you guys like them. Check you guys later. Peace.